Focus on the lesson. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a little, but I still reinvest it. Fear how I feel, then you feel like a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down, hold it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got your watch list coming into January 6, 2021, and I am going to short one stock tomorrow, and the stock market is going to move in the morning. We have the runoff elections starting now. By tomorrow morning, the polls should be closed, but I was wrong. They're actually expecting an answer early in the morning. So given how that has affected the markets this last few days, that is going to be very, very key, and it could be a potential catalyst in the morning. So we're going to get to see how some of these theses play out. But at the same time, we had a lot of things happen today, a lot of different things in the news, a lot of various events that we need to talk about, and it's setting us up for a fairly wild January. So I hope your head is in the game, but we have a lot to go over. I have the plays, all of the plays I made today, what happened in the market today, what is going to be happening the rest of this week, and then also the plays we are looking at. So let us not delay. You guys know what you need to do. Drop your thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open. It's the first link in the description, and it is pinned in the comments. We better see you there in the morning. It's free $99. It costs you nothing to join. YouTube.com/the-stock-market. You can post the plays, see the plays, watch the watch list come to life. And yes, if you want to learn more about options besides just up or down, Robinhood lied. They didn't tell you about that. Yeah, I know. Then we are the place to be. And the most important thing you need to do, post your watch list below. Let us know what you're looking at. Got any plays, comments, remixes, anything. Post them below and source that info. Shout out to Chad, baby. And if you don't know who Chad is, you are Chad. So right off the bat, like we said, the runoff results are going to be tomorrow. That is going to come in the morning. We are expecting it for it to take a while, but they have some regulations where most of the votes are already counted. So they got 40% early votes. They have it ready to go. But the simple part to understand here is that we're not going to have to wait for it. So we will pretty much get an immediate reaction. We will see. It is all going to depend on the margins. The closer the race, the less likely we will find out. But if it does end up being a pretty big margin, you should know by the early hours of tomorrow morning. Now, I said this yesterday. I think this is probably going to be one of the most important effects here. So we'll get to see how this plays out. You also got the Trump baby mama drama going down in DC. So we will see how that plays out. But if there's any driver that could affect policy, repricing, anything, it is going to be a shift. Either they go to that full blue wave or it stays at the current situation that the market is already pricing in. So we brought this chart up on stream, and you could kind of see it pretty much as the Republican odds dipped, so did the market. There is a very, very strong correlation, and this is what has been causing the commotion. So even though we saw the flip-flop today, you saw the bounce in the market, and this is because the odds tightened. And this even looks a little bit different than what we were watching all day if you see it. So even as I'm making this hour here, the odds have kind of even switched very, very greatly, but this is going to have an important effect. So we are going to find out very, very shortly. The market will either brush this off really quick if nothing happens. Otherwise, we are going to know exactly where to look tomorrow. So there's that. Then this is going to relate to the play that I want to look at, but there's Baba and the Chinese security flip-flop. So we have apparently found Jack Ma faster than Waldo, but the interesting part here, if you guys remember, right before New Year's, there was that ban on those Chinese securities. We talked about it right when we came back to the market, but not today in the morning. They actually rescinded it, or the New York Stock Exchange said they're flip-flopping on that. But then now after hours, they said they actually might go back because Munchkin towards the end of the day said he called them. So this is becoming very, very interesting, but it is also pointing to the bigger date of January 11th, where that is where the original executive order says, hey, if there's any companies on that list, by January 11th, they need to be removed. So this might hint at other stuff, or we're going to see what happens, but it is very, very rare to see actions like this just flip-flop back and forth, considering everything that's happened with Baba the last few days. I think this is getting very, very interesting, and it even ties into the dollar in a weird way. So it gives us a little bit more of a lead time to watch out for the rest of the month, but I am going to be keeping my eyes on that. I think that is very important. And then finally, you had a great economic number today. The ISM came out. We talked about it. We saw it in the morning. It popped up. The market, believe it or not, even came down from it, then shot back up here. You know, today was just a mini battle around where we opened and closed before that, and then we came back up, and it kind of put it on the 14-day. You could see where we're at compared to that Christmas holiday and that move we saw yesterday. So that was very important. important. You are also going to get the non-farm payrolls on Friday. That will be important, as well as the Fed minutes tomorrow, I believe. And then finally, you had a lot of positive oil news. So this could be interesting how it plays into the dollar, and even if you want to look at any of the oil companies. But Russia said they're going to increase production while Saudis agreed to cut back production. So we saw the news come out today. I didn't really process it till after hours, but that's pretty big. Oil got a boost on it. We're going to see how that plays out. It could add a little bit of positivity to the market regardless, because oil is now holding up above that 50 level for some time. So we're going to see how that plays out. But all in all, tomorrow is really going to be about the runoffs. We're going to find out very early in the morning, and that'll probably create a hangover effect and then an opportunity to make plays. So it's going to be exciting, and I hope you're ready. But that is pretty much it. So let us get into the plays. So right off the bat, I made a few different plays today. The first one that I made was the UNH. We talked about that one on stream. This is actually my Georgia runoff play, so we're going to get to see how this plays out relatively quickly. I probably should have got less time on it because we are going to find out tomorrow, but if you guys watched yesterday's watch list, I even said it this morning, I was expecting a much slower process, but I did grab a pretty decent sized plays. I put $2,000 down. I grabbed 10 of the UNH June 21 210 puts. So let me give you a little quick option lesson. Understand what this means. I got into a contract with some random guy, computer bank, whatever you want to call it. Somebody was willing to put it up. It makes rational sense if you watch the lesson today, but the pure nature of this contract, I gave somebody $203 a contract on 10 contracts, and they agreed to buy 100 shares, or since I have 10 contracts, 1,000 shares of UNH from me at $210 a pop. So UNH is trading above that. The idea is if UNH ever drop below that, or if UNH starts dropping down, the contract will gain value. But in essence, the way we make money off the put, we have the right to sell them a stock at a certain price. So if it falls below that price, you become extremely profitable, or by the expiration date, if it gets down there, that is how you make money. So granted, we have about 6 months of time on this contract, about 30% out the money. So it's possible, not really probable. You could kind of see how that plays out, but it's kind of right there. And that's why we're hoping the runoff could create a little volatility. If it moves the stock, we will see. But I explained the logic of this play yesterday with UNH. The idea is it's pretty much just unwinding the positive stuff you saw from election. I showed this on stream, showed this on the watch list yesterday. You could pull up a bunch of stocks and see which ones had the pop on the election day, kind of how they've held up. And it's kind of clear they're holding right where they popped up at. And it's been almost a full quarter. So I want to see how this plays out. Again, I was expecting it to take longer, so I got a little bit more time. I probably could have went closer to the money, but we will see. And I think that's going to be an interesting play, so I want to be watching that even tomorrow in the morning, or even if there's a follow-up. So that is the first play. The second play that I'm going to be looking at is Alibaba. So here's Baba. I already said it. It is very rare to see that flip-flop. I don't like the Jack Ma stuff, even though it's been going up and you've been seeing this. I think I might be grabbing puts. This is the one I want to grab puts on. So I'm not fully sold on the thesis just yet, but I want to see how other things develop. It is very expensive. They're very illiquid with some time. I already looked the last couple days. It was up a lot, so I didn't pull the trigger. I definitely had a chance to, so I'm waiting a little bit, but every single day that goes by, this Chinese situation's getting a little bit more interesting. But the counter thesis to this would be what happens because you have that executive order with the Chinese companies around January 10th or January 11th, but then Biden comes in 9 days later. So depending on how that plays out, he hasn't talked about reversing it or not, so we'll see. That could kind of be the antithesis to this play. But depending on how news develops, I think this will be key. And then we are going to tie it into the dollar. I might as well just tell you guys now, I put this on the keys. Like I said, with everything going on in China, it's interesting, but the dollar is getting really, really, really low. So even today, you know, we love to watch UUP last, but you can see it's kind of breaking out on that lower level. Even though the market went down yesterday, if you went and saw how yesterday moved, it really wasn't that big. It gapped down and then it only closed up like 0.1%. Today, you dropped another 0.5%. But the idea here is now this could start to affect China, because if our dollar gets too weak, their currency gets strong. 2018, 2015. You know how we've been following this, or you've listened to Uncle Answer songs. This is actually very, very important. So now the dollar starts to get really, really weak. It's going to affect other currencies, namely China. They would probably have the most to lose. So I do want to start focusing on some of these companies, and I think that play is going to be interesting. So that is the second play. The main one I'll be looking at, again, all really depends on the pricing and then timing. If the market does gap up off of any good news tomorrow, it would make a good opportunity for puts, but then there might be a lot of momentum, so we will see. But that is the second play. Then Micron, Nvidia, and Western Digital. I like the chip makers. They killed it. They've been killing it since last week, the beginning of this week. I really, really like how they're holding up. I don't have any plays. They're going back and forth. Like some of them are going 4 or 5%, like Micron and Nvidia. Yesterday, flip-flop WDC will come up here. AMD barely moved, but I think something's there. They were beat down, or some of them at least. least. I know like Intel and then Micron and AMD and Nvidia kind of ran up there, but there's a lot of chip making companies on the stock market, so watch out for all of them. I am going to watch all three of these. If this sets up, I will be interesting. And then finally, I want to watch the IPOs. Now we're getting towards this first week. You saw a lot of weird pickups towards the end of the day, like Airbnb, even Open Door popped after hours, so I want to see how that starts to position, but not going to really force it. I still think there is some bigger opportunities, and the market is still waiting for either risk on or risk off, depending on how the runoffs and everything play out. So we will find out soon, but I do know one thing: if we could get past some of these headwinds, some of those IPOs are going to look very, very attractive to some investors, so we will see. But as far as everything else, watch those UNHs. I wanted to add this to the list. I am going to put it here. I was looking at this morning. QuantumScape QS. A lot of you asked about it when it's up here. I just said it was too hot. It's still kind of hot. I didn't even know this was an EV play, but I was looking at it this morning. Again, we had a lot of those options lessons. The stock moved 26%, but you could kind of see here with the options in the morning, even if you got it there like at a pretty decent price in the morning, these were far out the money. You could see the chain. The chain, I said it on stream, it looks like a VIX option chain because it's just so spread out in the asks and the bid. It's really, really crazy. So even at like the little pop-up here, you really didn't make too much money. So this is a lesson we could probably talk about with option premium. So I think QS is interesting, but I'm really not liking this chain at all. Or if I am going to want to pick this up, I want to get it when the IV depreciates a little bit or those spreads tighten, because even though it's making a 26% move, you could have bought at the open and only walked away making 30, 40 extra percent. And considering how much you're paying for like almost 50%, 100% out the money, it's a little bit ridiculous, but I still think it's interesting. A lot of eyes on that. I'm putting that on there. I want to watch that. Eva had some news. This is a very big biotech company. I mean, we talked about it. They used to be a behemoth. I think they got mentioned on CNBC today. So this was an interesting move. I want to see how it plays out, especially with that UNH news and some of the healthcare stuff. So that will be key. Those JPMs went up. Banks started to go up a little bit. I like how the premiums hold. So I'm still rocking that JP Morgan play from last week or earlier this week, excuse me. Then I'm going to be watching Boeing. They popped up a little bit. There was news with them and like Delta and Amazon buying like older Boeings, but they were already just rotating and winning. They were the leader in the Dow today, I'm pretty sure. So they started off very, very strong. They held it up all throughout the gains. You could even tell it was just very different from the market. It moved very, very solid. So I want to see how that plays out. We've seen it a few times. If it could kind of get back into that little rhythm, it will be good. I think we actually still have that one ghetto spread, if you guys remember. So it still has some value. I believe we're down on it now. It says 61%. We ghetto spread it and got our money back. So we'll see how that plays out. But I like it in general. I don't know about making a play just yet. But like I said, any of these companies that are holding up in some of these days and outperforming the market, definitely keep your eye on. So there's Boeing, Disney. It went up a little bit more. It slowed down. Those options that we're still holding, I still have those April 16th 200 calls. They're still holding just under 1,000%. But I talked about it. I like Disney, but it is such a slow mover. We have a lot of gains on it. I kind of want to sell it, but we will see. I'm really 50-50 on it, but or I could always even trim a little bit, ghetto spread it. So we'll see. But I still like Disney for the exact same reasons. I do like that 180 level, so maybe I'm getting greedy on it. We will see. Watch Facebook again, still holding all those Google and Zoom puts and all that. They ended up dropping today, and ironically, the Facebook ones are negative still, but the Google ones went positive. But I do want to watch any of that tech stuff and how it plays out. Just like I said yesterday, you could go look at any of the FANG. Google and Facebook have been a little bit more stable, as if they are waiting on something. So I am too. Watch them. Watch Baba. Even Baidu, we're in that place still. We still have that one play that we made one of them free, and we're still holding that leap. I want to see how that plays out. If any of this China stuff gets a little more sketchy, I may want to sell out. So I am going to keep my eye on that. Like we said, Micron, they absolutely killed it today. Just very, very strong in the morning, and they held up. So I really like that. Airbnb towards end of the day started popping. Another one was Open Door after hours. So if somebody could post the news there. But you saw a lot of these smaller companies, I think even Big Commerce, which is a little different, and then Asana and even Dropbox, a lot of those momentum stocks kind of picked up today. So we will see how those play out. And then finally watch Zoom. I think this is really important because it was even up today and then it kind of flip-flopped. Remember, this was like a rotation one. We're trying to see what role it's playing coming into 2021. Is it going to be a growth stock, a momentum stock? Are people really playing it for the stay-at-home news? Is it overvalued? So getting a little bit interesting here. And even despite the last few days, we showed you guys this yesterday, those calls are still up, or the puts, excuse me. So we still got 25%, not 50%, but you still have spreads and premium holding. And then finally, we already talked about the dollar. This is very, very key. You know, I brought this up. Here's that 5-year chart. This is bringing you back to key levels. Again, beginning of 2018. 2018 led to some of that repo crisis. Later 2018, then you come back down to 2016 in Brexit, which is coming off of 2015, that Shanghai Accord. This is a very, very interesting level for the dollar. So the question is, if it starts to break below here, does this start to have other residual effects? and then bonds may be able to tell us that answer. We want to see how it plays out here, but the dollar is getting weaker and then TLT is going down. This is actually a normal reaction. So again, we've been going over that, but now you're seeing the dollar's getting weaker. If TLT is going down, that means the yields are getting higher. If your dollar is weaker, you should have higher yields on a bond. So this finally makes sense, especially given the days the dollar was kind of going down, but TLT wasn't. That's why I said pay attention. So if TLT falls through, that may confirm that dollar level, and we'll see what happens from there. And we may have to start talking macroeconomics, but that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure Hydrate Healthy ready to go. Make sure you post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. I need you to take off the limits and give everything 100%, baby, even the small stuff. But the goal loves you. I love you. I'll see you in the morning. Let's go.